Hi guys, I'm Jen. Welcome to my channel. I want to do a video today about when you start to put yourself out there, it's interesting how other people show up. So when I first started trying to start an online coaching business, pulling cards, trying to develop my own spiritual, corner space. In the beginning, what I had is I had some people, mentors that seemed really supportive. And yet I started recognizing where, they were encouraging me to be one of the readers. And then, but what was happening is, whenever I read, I noticed that there's a handful of other readers, and this one, she would really support, with emojis like likes and things like that, and comments when these other women would, you know, post their things. But when I would post my stuff, it was crickets. And she would interact way more with the other girls, the other ladies. But when it was me, I was getting silence. And to be honest, I wasn't reaching out a lot to her because I was trying to build a business. And so I've experienced this as well in workplaces where I'm not kissing the boss's ass, and that's what actually is unsilently spoken, and required in some of these connections. They need you to look up to them with those doe eyes, like that they have all the answers in the world, and they're just like this person that you put up on a pedestal. When that doesn't happen, I find that it almost goes the other way, because you're not willing to do that or need to do that. Like, you just don't need them. Like, these other people are fawning over them, if that would be the right term. Like, just like, and I'm just not, because I just don't, I've been so self-sufficient for my life, so I'm not needy like that, or in need, I guess. And so when I show up in rooms or show up for myself, in different situations, the leader in the room, the boss in the room, gets really triggered by how I'm able to handle situations without getting them in there, without getting them involved. And I've previously, I've gone to them for, advice. I have interacted, but it's not the ass kissing that they're looking for. I'm not looking to there's some people that will attach to people because of who they are, thinking that they're gonna, like the feeder fish on the shark, and that's not me, because I don't value other people's money, because I'm going to make my own. And I also don't like the idea of I only want those that are that see the value in me to be supporting me. I'm not like a politician. I'm not looking for numbers. I'm looking for quality. And so when you tend to start putting yourself out there, like I recently had a situation where I put myself out there in a on Facebook, and this person, already when I read her response to my advertisement, I could already sense the trigger. Like, she was triggered by me going after what I want. She didn't like how much I was charging, and she didn't believe I had the credentials to charge that. And it's interesting, because when I went on her Facebook page to get a little bit more about her, because I already sensed something was off, I noticed that she's following a YouTuber who charges more than I do. Charges $60 for 30 minutes. He does charge $100 for an hour. Has he been doing this longer? Yes, but he's also very focused on one area where I have an array of experience. So, and not the need to explain myself, because we're all allowed to charge what we want. And she wanted to come from the space of, I'm just concerned that you're overcharging without having experience. But I also, in the same ad, offered a free version of my YouTube channel. So she's sitting here saying, I don't think you're allowed to charge that. That's what she's trying to come across, how dare you? And you know what the gross part is? There's good and there's gross. There's more women backing her. She didn't stop to check my YouTube channel to even see what I was about, to see if I had value. And the fact is, I'm not taking her advice, because for me, I have dealt with educated professionals that do have credentials, that do have the training, and not to dismiss it, but they were not helpful for what I was going through. They couldn't even recognize, some of these therapists couldn't even recognize where I was at in my healing. You know, they have to refer to like this flip up book to like kind of go down like, oh, my chart says this, you know, I think you have this. And they had to match it to their education, but not their experience, which for me and my life experience, that has not helped me coming from there. So I'm not saying it's helpful. It may not be helpful for other places, for other people, but like I also received by that same person where they're making me out to be the problem, and suggested that I need to be more trusting in my relationships. That's coming from a professional. And if you understand abuse, it comes when you're overly trusting of the wrong people and you don't know how to protect yourself. And so that would have been, had she advised me to, you need to learn how to protect yourself in order to trust, okay, I would have considered it. But that's not where she came from. And when I was in experiences before, she totally dismissed the abusers, just stating that's just them, which, I mean, that is true. But she wasn't validating what I had been through and the fact that, like, if I've been able to change, they should be able to change. They're just choosing not to change. So I don't know, something with that sat wrong with me. And then another situation I had from this professional with credentials was to suggest that when we were talking about a situation where I recognized a pattern happening with somebody in the social services, she thought, well, I should just write it off as her having a bad day, dismissing my ability to recognize the abuse while it's happening, to slow it down. So she just saw me, I'm there to get help from her, so she made the assumption that I don't know what I'm talking about, you know, and really dismissed me and my ability to see things. And she also couldn't recognize the reason why I didn't want to go back to the workplace was because, not because I was triggered, but because anytime I set up boundaries for myself in those environments, it was triggering other people, which in turn made me a target, then in turn made people antagonizing to try to set me off, because I wasn't willing to be that ticking time bomb anymore, right? And yeah, so it's interesting. So those are some of my experiences with professionals. And so when someone comes across and says, you can't charge that much, and look at all these people, it's so interesting if someone want to tell you how you can't make money. We have YouTubers out there that are making money doing less. They don't have credentials. You know, there so many people that are overcharging for things, and maybe they're just even charging the regular rate, but like they lack, you know, the skill set. Just because you go to school, like I went to school, and the idea is like, all you have to do is get a passing grade. You could get, like, what is it, a passing grade depending on the course. Like, you know, some of these courses that they're looking for, you don't have to tell your employer what you got. You just have to pass. So that doesn't, and when I was studying, this was just for office administration, I recognized I was able to memorize the content or the information, but to retain it was another thing. And I had a professional admit that that's similar to her, the same one. I admit that, you know, I lose information. I have to go and look it up sometimes too. I don't just carry it around in my head. Now for me, when I put myself through these experiences and I choose to be better and do better, and that means taking a hard path, asking the hard questions, it has allowed me to put myself in experiences and to experience these things over and over again, so I can get good at recognizing what's happening and why. And so now it's like ingrained in me, because I've learned it hands-on. And I don't know that that's the same for some of the individuals I've experienced with credentials and, you know, education. And you got to understand, like, we're recognizing a lot of things aren't what we thought they were. And so this education that people have memorized or learned by or practiced by doesn't necessarily make it accurate or true. Like when I went in for depression to the walk-in clinic, right away the doctors wanted to put me on antidepressants. They didn't inquire about a healthy living, you know, eating healthy, getting rest, you know, all these things. When I've experienced depression, they didn't even offer a therapist, like the idea to talk to a therapist. They just want to give me on antidepressants, like a quick fix. And that's a professional, that's a licensed professional suggesting the antidepressants for depression. And for me, what's caused my depression is living a life that is out of alignment with my authenticity. And what that looks like is living my life for other people, and being on hold for other people, waiting around for them to pick me up off the shelf and see my value. And it also involved me overgiving and people pleasing to the wrong people and expecting something out of it, and realizing the give and take was not equal. And if you also understand trauma affects your ability to articulate at times and find the words. Trauma can affect your memory. It can affect your eyesight. And your ability to read the room, but also it can heighten your ability to read other people's intentions, like this woman who's commenting. I've just experienced women like this a number of times, in my own family. So when she's coming out here, I can already, I've read her first comment. I can already, just how much she put into it. She put so much time and effort into her post, her comment, but the time responding after I'd posted it versus my content on my YouTube channels, because a lot of my YouTube channel videos are like 30 minutes plus, right? So there's no way she took the time to actually go and see for herself what I do. She just felt the need, like the emotional, that's what I mean. Her response is so fast without researching what the information that I've offered already. There's already somebody else who had already asked me if I was a doctor. And so she had that comment available to her. That's because she was the second comment on my post. And so it's interesting when you feel like you are offering information to people and they're ignoring it and they're just like doubling down. They've already decided. So when I feel like I'm having to over-explain, I also recognize people, like if I wouldn't do that, like if I wouldn't attack somebody like that online, then that's not that's someone I would be aware of. And don't tell me, I've done that before because I was triggered. But I also apologized after I misunderstood the post that I had gone off on, because I felt like I felt like somebody was presenting something in public and I felt like it was bias. And so when I tried to call them out on this biasness, they responded with information that I didn't have. And so at that time, I'm like, oh, okay. Was it humbling? Yes, it was. But did I apologize in a detailed apology to them personally, not online, but personally? Yes, I did. Did I remove my accusation online? Yes, I did. I've done this before. I've been there before, and that's where I have experience, because it's not just about recognizing these behaviors in other people. It's diagnosing other people. It's about the ability to look and recognize these things in your own life and to address them so we can become better. It's not about perfect. It's about becoming better. And so I recognize these people because I've been those people, and sometimes not to that extreme that I can recognize, but I know I've done it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Okay. And so now when you feel it, like it's also confirming what you're feeling, like this feels off. And it's interesting because her commenting, she tried to articulate herself in an educated way to make her seem like more impressive than me, because my post is quite simple and to the point, right? And so in her opinion, that might be unprofessional, but she hasn't checked out who I am. She doesn't know who I am, and she's making accusations. And so people are going to try to come off as someone who is just well-natured, curious, and just trying to get the answers for everybody else. And that's not what was happening. This woman has no interest in coaching. She has no interest in becoming better because she acts like she knows it all. And you know what? We all have to do that because we're all human, and we have to catch ourselves where if we're not looking to get the information, then who are we? That means we're not looking to grow. That means we think we're above everybody else. And so it's important to, and I'm working on this. It's something that I have to become aware of, because there's things where we come across, and like that's the human aspect. But the human aspect is to also understand that we're imperfect, and to admit when we're wrong and when we've done something that we felt could have been in good nature. Which to me, I when I went on her Facebook page, she's following a male YouTuber, and that she's fine to support him, but she doesn't want to support me. So like now, um, I'm recognizing her as someone who stands with women, or sorry, stands against women, stands with men. She's like, she doesn't think that women should be empowered or empower themselves. And then she's got like a little posse there that's, of course, backing her up. And I check out those, I check out their Facebook pages because it's like a validation, a confirmation that these people, like they're it's hard to recognize them on the everyday because they do seem like they advocate for others. They do seem to rock and ride with, idea systems and beliefs, or belief systems that seem to be on a whole inclusive or to everybody. But when I go to put myself out there, I have noticed the biggest backstabbers and the least supportive have been women. So, I mean, we talked about that. I know right now especially online, there's like a big thing with like men against women. And I'm not saying that's not true, but women against women is another huge arena that needs to be aware of, especially when you're trying to become better than your past self. These women will pretend to be advocates for women and a girl's girl, and they have just not been. And so now the other side of the coin, which is nice, is I did have a couple of women who just stated the obvious. I don't think they'd see my channel either and what I do, and they didn't need to. They just saw somebody trying to improve their life, and they didn't have to invest in me. They don't have to follow me. They don't have to subscribe for me, but they were willing to put themselves out there on a public platform to speak up on my behalf. Not to, like I said, I don't know them. I might not never know them, but they didn't need that. They didn't need that sort of like, and able to stand up and say, you know what, she's doing her thing, let her be. Like, coaches don't require credentials. The idea of coaching is like you have experience and that's what you bring to the table. And if you don't see the value in that, then that's fine. But the thing is, like I said, these women are asking me to prove my value, but they haven't even looked at my videos to see what I'm about, who I'm about. They just make accusations based on their own wounds. And I'm making the excuse that they're doing this for the benefit of a whole, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, because when I do look on their Facebooks, I don't see them advocating. I don't see them, I see, playful pictures that aren't that deep. I don't see anyone putting themselves out there to speak truth on a situation. So to me, that shows like you're not a truth seeker. You're hiding behind lies, and you're more comfortable with the lies than you are with the truth. And that's why some people stay stuck, because they can't handle the painful truth. The idea is that women are meant to support women, but to me, that's why I don't like this gender role thing, because I think it goes deeper than genders. I think it's good intentions and bad intentions, and safe and unsafe people, and not based on a woman or a man, because I just have seen where women have put me in line with danger for their own comfort. And this goes back to childhood. And, they'll try to make themselves seem like they're a victim after this, that they had well intentions and blah blah blah. And you know what, if that's true, cool. But you know what I see is a pattern of targeting by these women, and they're not willing to stop and reflect and be like, you know what, was I triggered? Maybe I was. Why am I triggered? Oh, because I don't feel like I can go get that for myself. Someone is doing something that I don't feel capable of, and that's why I'm triggered. And in reality, in my messaging, I promote everybody can do this, that I'm not special, that I've just done the work. That's all. Everyone can do what I'm doing. It's just, if you want to, it's a choice. It's hard. It's challenging. Especially when you've gone through all this work and you've learned to recognize the abuse, and you've advocated and stepped up for yourself for the abuse, and now you're going out there and putting yourself, what you deem to be a safe community, a safe space, and you're still being targeted, but it's dressed up as, oh, I'm just clarifying your credentials. That's not what was happening there. That person got triggered because, like, do you go around these people don't go around price checking everybody else. Like I said, she's supporting somebody else who charges more than me per hour, and is only focused on a small area, while I have experience on a large area. And so, and like, not to dismiss, like, that person, go do you. I like, if you want to charge. You know, just because I don't, there are reasons I see coaches who are charging more and no less. Am I hunting them down online to Karen them in the comments and be like, how dare you charge this? No, I'm staying in my lane, focusing on me. And I'm like, if they charge that and people want to fall into that, that's their thing. Can I see where they haven't done the work? Sure I can. Sure I can. But I don't feel, it's like even with the experiences I've had with some of these professionals, like, I speak about it online as my experience to in a teaching manner, but I'm not going on and like reviewing these people and being like, Dr. So-and-so, did this. And Dr. So-and-so, I don't feel like that she can recognize this. Like, I'm not going, it's just not that deep for me. Like, it's not, I don't know. I'm not invested in that, because like I said, there are some people that they will find them helpful. You know, it's not for me. I'm just at a different level in the way that my experiences have been different, and I put myself in different situations in order to get different solutions and answers, because I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again, and by walking into the same rooms, I was getting up with the same results. So for me, I had to go to the opposite way and be like, okay, what happens when I do this instead, which is the opposite of what I've been doing? And it seemed to be working for me. And so, like, I had to put myself out there. I had to put out myself in a position where I didn't know what it looked like. And that's why I charge what I do. And to be honest, I wanted to charge more. So it's a good thing she didn't see when I charged more, because I've had to put myself in not just challenging, but like dangerous situations, and find my way out of them, and slow myself down enough to try to be able to put this in a format for other people. And that, you know, I think that's one of my struggles right now, is like my trauma brain is affecting me, because it's hard to focus at times and put my ideas in one spot, like on one idea. So that is one of my challenges that I'm working my way through, and I think with practice I'm getting better at it. And I'm also seeing what people respond to and what they appreciate. And so that is helpful when I get that feedback. And it was great to have somebody like just stick up for the fact that, like, this is not required. And they even made a comment like, you know, these people follow, you know, people for mental health advice, and they don't check they're not checking all their credentials. They're taking advice from people that, you know, aren't licensed or educated in the way of academics. So it's just interesting, like, this person, I definitely felt that she was coming for me. Even she was polite, you know, she's like trying to tell me what I did and for what reasons. I could see a lot of projection in her, like claiming that I was dismissive of her, but she was actually dismissing me. And then I don't know, she's trying to say, well, I just appreciate that you're being transparent. And by her saying, I appreciate you being transparent, that's making the assumption that I wasn't being transparent, but I was. Do you see how, so she's like filling up her paragraph with word salad, which is like, she's all over the place, and she's making it hard for me to respond, because she's just like trying to overwhelm me with information. But she's also trying to dress up her comment as like just thoughtful. I'm just considerate of others. I'm just trying to get answers, when in reality she's not. She's trying to confuse the situation and apply things that are not me to my ad, you know, to my post. She's trying to make it seem like I'm dismissive of people, that I'm not transparent, that I'm trying to trick people and try to fool people. But in reality, that's exactly what she was doing in her intention to try to bring attention to my post. You know, if she was actually interested in coaching, she would have taken the time to check out my YouTube channel first, to see what I'm doing over there. Another thing is like, I don't feel the need to come out of my lane to call all these people out for what they're charging. You know, that would be weird. I've never seen her come on to the other services to ask what these people are charging, you know, because in her, like, there's people that are constantly doing their own businesses. You know, is she asking, there's a guy on there who provides landscaping and grass cutting, and he didn't provide his price, but she's not on there. What's your price? Are you qualified? You know, so it's interesting that because I put my price out there and she didn't like my price, and she didn't like that, you know, I didn't have to go to school to learn what I know. I'm self-taught. She doesn't like any of that because she's not willing to do that herself. She hasn't done that herself. So she doesn't like the idea that I have done the groundwork and I have found answers. I don't need her as a customer. I wouldn't take her as a client. She's not in a place of receiving information. She's still in denial and delusion. She thinks she's up here above people. And that's what keeps a lot of people stuck, when they think that I don't have anything to learn. I know it all. And that's where the opinions and the judgment comes from. I think judgment, you know, judging if someone is safe is important, but recognizing where someone's just being triggered because they're not doing something that somebody else does. And they think because they have numbers, this is not the first time I've had people come at me in numbers. Like I said, I recognize this situation right away online as a targeting and bullying situation. Where it got me caught up is like, because my business, it's a profession and I'm looking to, you know, be professional. I was uncertain on how to respond with her because, like, to be honest, I'm fluctuating between not giving her too much of a spotlight, but at the same time I wanted to provide answers for other people that would be viewing the post, right? And it's also not my, like, it's a local group, so to me, I'm like, there are rules, and I know in the past I've always felt like I respond too small in fear of coming across the wrong way. And so I know I do that. And so that's something I have to recognize, where I'm still not at my full potential to advocate for myself, and I'm learning that. And I think through putting myself out there now, it's going to help me double down. Like on my YouTube page, I'm getting good at, like, I just, you know, if someone wants to put something out there that I don't believe in, I'm just like, okay, well, I don't believe that. And you can believe that. I'm not saying you can't believe it. That's just, I don't believe that. And so it's definitely something, as I'm putting myself into action, I'm learning about it, and I'm recognizing where I have more work to do, which is fine, because we're not meant to have all the answers before we start. You don't get the answers until you put yourself out there in the action. That's how you get the experience, right? And that's the difference. That's the difference. If I sat here based on what I know and not what I've learned through experience, then I'm going to be missing a lot of the information. And that's what she's not understanding, and that's what she can't see because she hasn't done it herself. She does not put herself in challenging experiences to better herself. She's stuck. She's stuck. That's just what I see. She's stuck. And when I went onto her Facebook page, she has comments about narcissists. And I think she would believe herself to be an empath, which could be true. But she would be like an empath that has fallen into an arena where she thinks because she's met spirituality, that's the end all be all game. And she doesn't understand where just because you've moved from one square to another, that doesn't mean you're at the finish line of life, right? Think of like the game of life. Like there's so many places that you have to step on to experience that perspective. And I just don't see a lot of growth in her just based on her assumptions of who I am. And this is something I've had to do. You know, like I assumed women were supportive. Wrong. Not all women are supportive. Some women are supportive. Just like I can't make that assumption like all men are bad. You know, some men, you know, and it's not, I don't know the percentages, but I just don't like to put myself in that boat that says, like that I'm going to hate on men. There are men that are self-aware. There are men that are working on it. Are there a large number? Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't met all men. The large number of men that I have met have been insecure, trying to minimize me like this woman tried to. So that's what I mean. I don't go gender-based. I go human-based. There's a lot of insecure humans out there that are trying to come across as overly confident, and they try to confuse you with words. And I knew a family member like this, actually a couple of them, where they thought that if they were to like learn the words in the dictionary, if they could learn these, you know, they try to intimidate you with large language. And that's why I don't like different terms in spirituality, and you know, and even how the Bible is written. It seems like very poetic in nature, but conflicting, like it, and maybe that was what they spoke then, I don't know. But to me, I like to keep things simple, and while I don't always have the words, that doesn't mean I can't people are trying to understand me because they don't want to understand. That's what I find. I just find when I feel like I'm trying to pull teeth, when it feels like I'm having to defend myself amongst people, because when I'm confused by somebody, I'm looking to ask. That's where I've gotten to, where I'm looking, instead of making assumptions, instead of making accusations, I've learned to stop and slow it down, because those are triggers, and I'm having to, when you trigger out, that's not a term, but when you trigger out, what comes with that is humility, and acknowledging, like, wow. And now sometimes it doesn't, because like I said, this one lady that posted, she was getting higher numbers and support than I was, so she's going to take that as a win. But I'm not looking to win. I'm looking to understand, and that's the difference between the two of us. She's looking to win. She's looking to win because when she wins like that, she feels big, and she's trying to make someone feel small, right? So that's a win for her, and that's where she's at. That's unfortunate, because instead of getting information and building her confidence, she's chosen another path. So whether she's been hurt in life or not, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at how is she responding to me in life. I don't care about your woundings anymore when you feel certified to come at me for no reasons, without getting the information, and just come at me, right, to try to make me feel some sort of way, when in turn she was actually the one responding from an emotional trigger and response in place, right? I don't have the language and the lingo of certified licensed professionals. I don't. And sometimes I'm looking for my words, and sometimes I don't articulate what I'm trying to say, and I'm learning how to do that better. But that doesn't mean I don't have good intentions, that I'm not willing to recognize where I'm wrong and how I can be better and more understanding. I'm 47. The first part of my life has been very traumatizing, to be honest, and so I'm looking to heal from that and learn more. So it makes sense that we're all going to have a lack of understanding in life, because it's based on the uncomfortable situations we're willing to put ourselves in, maybe the life experiences we've gone through already, and that we're willing to be aware that we've experienced. Like the women that come for me are the ones who are not willing to acknowledge that they've been in abusive situations, or they're tolerating them because they don't want to have to develop something else within themselves, which is independence. They're really doubling down on that codependent energy. They need numbers. It's like a politician perspective, where they need numbers, and as long as they have numbers, that makes them popular. There's a lot of popular toxic platforms and people out there that are just being backed by a number of people, and they're not right. They're not good intention, but they have numbers, and so that's why I don't rock with numbers. I don't go. I'm not impressed by money. It's your character. How do you behave? And like even that, I can take a step back and understand and see where you're coming from, but I don't have to be part of your path. If for me at this point, I'm advocating for myself, and I'm protecting myself. And so I'm learning to recognize where someone doesn't have good intentions, and well, I don't have to take that on emotionally. I can see her now, and it's not all people. It could be a lot of people, but there are people. What I also got to experience in this interaction is that there are other people out there, and I don't need them to be invested in me. I don't need them to be my friends. They're just decent human beings that have recognized common sense, and where someone's trying to build themselves, and they don't have to ask, like, they're just seeing that, they're accepting that, whatever she's doing, she's got to do it, and she's going to learn by it. And so that's kind of where I left that off. And like I said, this is not the first time. This is just the most recent time I've had this like happen in workplaces, where I've had bosses try to minimize me. When I started calling out like safety issues, when I started calling attention to like inefficient work floor, organization, but lack of it, inefficiencies. And there's also I've called this out in relationships, and they've platonic and romantic, and they always try to make it seem like I'm the problem, because if they're the problem, they're going to have to do something different, and they're quite comfortable in the position that they've put themselves in, on that pedestal, that overconfident, inexperienced pedestal they've placed them on. And you got to understand, like, when they get numbers and they come for you, remember those people are in that arena. They were never meant for you. You know, the girls that are promoting this woman's lack of perspective, they're gonna have the same. So like, I don't get sad about that anymore, because like, those people are never for me. I don't need those numbers. Those numbers are not for me. My people are out there. I'll find them. I'm finding them, you know. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be, it could be a stranger. And then it's the fact that these are just strangers, they don't know me. And the fact that they can recognize, like, that I'm trying to become better and do better. It also puts a magnifying glass on like my family members that really went out of their way to minimize me, and they couldn't support me. That's what support looks like. It doesn't involve, you know, I don't need you to pay for my groceries. I don't need you to pay for me. I just need you to acknowledge that I'm putting an effort to make myself better. And when people have not done that themselves, they tend to lash out like feral animals at other people who are doing it, you know. And so that's what you have to recognize. So like, yeah, I just got up this morning, so I got a little bit of greasy hair, but it is what it is. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Like, when you recognize the things, the key factors are when I feel like I'm trying to pull teeth, when it feels like no matter what I say, they're not understanding, they're not looking to understand, they've already made a decision. They're closed-minded. And it's interesting because some of these people that show up like this in the beginning were very friendly. They try to come across understanding, and that they're emotionally available, and just because they're friendly or do kind things does not make them a friend or a kind person. A lot of people are doing things, you know, they give things. And some people do support, but for the wrong reasons too. You got to acknowledge that. Some of these people, like, I've had people that are love, 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 or I've had people like that will, you know, I'll post my face on my Facebook, and they'll love that. But like, when I start posting my work and who I am on the inside, crickets, nowhere to be found. You know, so they're willing to, like, they want the numbers. They're there for the numbers. They'll like my face because that keeps me close. That's a number for them, right? Supposedly, that's what they think. But they're not willing to put themselves out there and support me publicly for my idea sets, you know, my mindsets, my belief systems, what I'm learning, you know, what makes me who I really am. That is a fence rider to me. That is someone who is, it's just a matter of time. Like, when I need somebody to have my back, they're not going to be there. And like, I've had people like my post, and it's like they're trying to ride the post, not ride for me. So be aware of that too. It's like, well, that's what I'm becoming aware of. It's like, not all support is well-intentioned. There's selective support for different reasons, remember? And what happens is when you try to grow yourself, a lot of people see you moving and they don't want you to go anywhere, because either they're not going anywhere or they're benefiting from you. And so I've also had that in relationships and workplaces. And the more I grew my self-worth and developed it, I could start seeing where our interactions were very imbalanced and very unfair from what I was receiving based on what I was giving. And so you got to understand, these people are going to, it takes practice and time to recognize this when it's happening, because like I said, it's dressed up with good intention and manners, and it's overly wordy, so it makes you think, oh, they've got more education, they must know more than me. It's not the case. It's not the case. Knowing words in a dictionary is very different than gaining life experiences. It's very different. So, and not to dismiss that, I would love to have a better vocabulary. I'm working on it, but right now I'm focusing on other things. And that's great that she can type out all of that stuff. That's good for her. But unfortunately, she's showing the ugly on the inside, and her wounding, which is not well natured. So hopefully that was helpful. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.